Hey everyone. Well, as you guys know, I debuted my 1995 Chevy Corvette in my last video, and I mentioned that I have to take it in to get it inspected and looked over. So today we're going to be heading up to the Corvette Connection on the kind of like northwest side of Milwaukee, and we're gonna get her fully looked over, get a bill of health on this thing, and see what she all needs, and kind of go from there with the future of the Corvette here. So rain is possible in the forecast today, so as you can see, we're going to leave the top end just to be safe, and we're going to head on up. So let's fire it up. Man, a sporty V8 sounds nice. Wish I had a bigger garage. A single car garage really doesn't make this easy to get in and out of, but look at that ugly garage. I'm gonna have to do something about that at some point. To be honest, better than nothing. As typical in Milwaukee, you go nowhere fast. Took way longer to get up here than I was expecting, but it's always a nice drive, and just like that, we are here. Yeah. And scrape the front of my car on the way in, because why wouldn't a place called Corvette Connection have a nice even parking lot? Here's this one.
That's a 69.
69 Stingray.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it has some mouse intrusion in it.
Oh, really?
You stick your head in there, you might be able to smell it.
Yeah, it's not too bad. Oh, yeah. Yeah, now I smell it. I got in there a little closer. Yeah. Oh, so the battery's right in the back behind the driver's seat, huh?
Right.
Yeah, this is the one I always had the Hot Wheels of when I was a kid. So. Definitely not going to get 18 miles per gallon like I'm getting in mine, though. So is this a Superbird or a Data?
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah,
nice.
it's a Hemi Superbird.
That is. I got a funny story about that. My up at my grandparents, my next door neighbor had one of these. It was
really?
It was blue, probably the only one that's in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
It was sitting in the garage one day. And he was storing it for a friend of his that needed to get restored. And all of a sudden, I thought he's pulling out a truck, and I see the wing come by the fence. I'm like, no way!
They're hard not to miss, right?
All right, well, we're here at the Corvette Connection, and this is
Bob Steinbacher.
and he's going to be giving me the tour of my new Corvette. So let's see what the bill of health is on here.
All right. Well, usually I start up front here. It's just usually good to see if it's ever had any front end work, collisions up front, any major body work. The signs are usually pretty simple. A lot of times when they get hit up front, you'll see this frame rail get kind of squashed, bent, tweaked a little bit.
Sure.
A lot of times it'll look like the hood hinges, some of the hardware things will get repositioned. So far it looks pretty good. It doesn't look like anything was moved around or shifted or anything like that. Nothing's broken.
I don't know if you noticed, but when the hood was down, it does look like it's a little bit out of alignment.
I can take a look at that when we get the hood down.
Okay.
Sometimes it's just a matter of adjustment. Which, let's see, over here it looks like we may have had some paint work done. There's some yellow overspray.
Yeah, I see, like around the lights and that.
Yeah, on the headlight motor. On the edge of the hood here, you can see that the bumper's kind of tweaked up a little bit. This support here is bent.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I did check the Carfax, and they said I think in 2001 it went into a ditch, but they said
Okay.
minor damage reported.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that's probably makes sense for that.
any major head-on collision or anything.
Okay.
I mean, the frame rail here, this all looks good. To really know if these are where they should be, you almost have to put them on a frame machine and measure them. But I mean, usually there's telltale signs of something major going on. But yeah, I mean, this is probably just cosmetic. You can see here that this was shaved down.
It was probably rubbing
to sort of clear this right here.
Okay.
But not the end of the world.
Yeah. Yeah, if it had 30,000 miles on it, and I'd be more worried than 122.
Yeah. Sister air intakes. A lot of times I like to look where this air intake duct, where it meets up to the throttle body and where it meets up to the box here. A lot of times when guys take them off and put them back on, the lip folds over on the bottom.
Oh, okay.
Same with up here, and it doesn't make a good seal. They can cause drivability issues. You can get a check engine light.
And then you're kind of bypassing the air filter too, then, huh? You get some air in
Yeah,
there.
you're getting some extra air pass there. This one looks good up front.
Yeah, I did notice one thing, like
pretty good.
this along here. I didn't know if that was any concern.
Yeah, you're getting some leaking. There's a seal in here.
Okay.
It probably wouldn't hurt to take that throttle body off, clean it up, reseal it.
Okay. Is that like a gasket set or something?
Yeah. There's a
Okay.
set that you can get for that to seal that back up.
Okay.
Lower part of the intake manifold where it meets the valley on the top of the engine block, these tend to leak a lot of oil out of there. I mean, this one's not, it's just pretty typical.
Yeah.
It's not great. It's not terrible either. It's just kind of
That's kind of par for the course for
Yeah.
most of the stuff on this guy.
Yeah.
Like, it's not perfect, but it's good.
yeah, I mean, it's not
What the hell?
if it is leaking, it's pretty minimal.
Caught a rubber band somewhere along the way.
You can see it's leaking back here pretty good. See
Yeah.
how it looks back there?
I know it's leaving some. The
Yeah.
guy said it was the valve cover gaskets, but I mean, I took that with a grain of salt. I was just,
Yeah, I mean, the valve cover gaskets do leak on these.
Mm-hmm.
These don't look, at least up front here, this side doesn't look terrible. You look in the back.
but it is pretty high. You can see it, huh?
Yeah, I mean, when it's up that high, that's right where that intake manifold meets the top of the motor.
I know I did watch a video said something about the oil sending unit or something could leak too, and I don't know
those
if that.
can leak also. You've got your sending unit and your pressure sensor over here.
Okay.
but most of your moisture is basically along that line where the intake meets up to the motor. And if you love the car, then start doing work to it. A lot of people buy them thinking that they're going to be better than they are. And then they start hating them.
No, I still, Corvette, as I said to the guy in front, Corvette or not, it's still a 22-year-old Chevy. Sure. You can't, it's a Chevy, so they're gonna.
Sure. Well, and let's face it, GM didn't make these cars to last 20 or 30 years.
Well, because they knew whoever buys them is going to be buying a new one in 3 years.
Right. So.
Folks like us that end up with these ones, right?
It's not a bad thing. I mean, a lot of these cars are still decent cars. They can be out on the road. They just need a little bit of TLC.
Yeah.
But
I've never had a car that had no rust on it. So to me, this thing's beautiful. It needs to get clean, but I mean,
Well, and we'll get to that. A lot of guys try to clean these engine compartments, and you can do it. But what tends to happen is the distributor on the front of the motor, when they get wet, especially from heavy cleaning, then you get either a heavy misfire or won't start at all.
Okay.
And I'll show you a distributor. I've got a few of them sitting here that I've taken off.
So more or less dry, clean, and touch-up only kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you can get them a little wet around here, but you really got to be careful up there, especially with runoff, because
probably flows right down in there.
It looks like yours may have been replaced before. Most likely it has with the mileage that you have.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that. Usually I like to look up here, this check valve here. A lot of times these things turn to Swiss cheese, or they'll be all deteriorated or broken. They just get brittle. The plastic gets old.
Sure.
And you'll develop vacuum leaks right here. That's a real easy place to look if you're having drivability issues with these cars.
Doesn't look too bad right now, though.
No, no. I mean, it's older, but I mean it's intact. Yeah, the valve cover's leaking a little bit on the driver's side here. You can see it towards the back. The side of the head is kind of wet.
Yeah. Well, at least those look fairly easy to get to, right?
Yeah, I mean, you do have to take some stuff apart, but it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
And you've got more vacuum lines. Could use a belt. The belt, you can see the ribs are kind of dry cracked.
Okay.
You can see all the crack lines.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So it's probably time for a belt. This is an issue. You can see that this hose has been rubbing on the power steering pulley.
Oh.
This is a vacuum hose for the distributor. Basically, what this does is it puts a constant vacuum draw on the distributor, which is down below.
Okay.
To keep moisture and debris out of it.
Oh yeah.
But that's clearly rubbing through.
So we need to get that.
Yeah.
Put somewhere else. Huh?
Yeah, it looks like it's all the way through actually.
Oh. Okay.
So probably what we need to get, the easiest thing to do would be to just cut it here, and be careful that we don't drop it down.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to get at. And put a little union on there with an extension piece of hose and pop it back in. But yeah, there's a definite vacuum leak right there.
So try avoid rain and stuff like that for the time being until I fix that, right?
Yeah, or I can just stick a piece of hose on there for you before you leave.
Okay.
There's another hose you usually want to check. That's your vacuum feed for the brake booster. This is your PCV hose, this U-shaped hose. These usually get really hard and brittle. So, if you ever do spark plugs or any type of work up on top, a tune-up, so to speak, it's a good time to change that, put a new hose on it.
Okay.
These are your actuators for the shocks.
Now that's something I can't even tell. Like when the knob in there, I can't even tell if it does anything.
Believe me, most people can't tell the difference. So I can't, and I drive these daily.
Okay.
Some people swear by it, but for me, it doesn't make any difference. I'd rather not have it. But what happens is these actuators can go bad. They're kind of an expensive fix.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
The other thing is there's a gear inside the actuator. There's a gear on top of the shock. The gear on the shock is metal. It can break. It can crack and break apart. You can replace those. The other thing that happens in the actuator, the female portion of the gear is plastic, and that turns inside that actuator, and that plastic breaks down. You know, it's 30-year-old plastic,
Yeah.
or 20-year-old plastic, and it'll just break apart, and those can be fixed as well. There's a blend right here. See it? See how it's kind of cloudy right here?
Oh yeah.
That's your paint blend. So yeah, there.
You can see it in the light. Yeah.
And plus, you can see that this yellow does not match this yellow, especially
Yeah.
here. I mean, you can really see that.
Yeah. See, this is what I was talking about. Like right
Yeah.
here, it's kind of tight.
Yeah, yeah. It must have. That could have been from that accident that you had mentioned. Could have been a different time, but yeah, obviously it kind of pushed the bumper up and clearly did some damage to the hood. So they did a repair on it.
You know, the other guy I talked to last week when I set this up, he mentioned something about possibly being able to maybe shim it or something, and it would.
You could try to get some adjustment out of there, sure.
You
I mean, the right way to have done this would have been to, well, first they could have matched the color better, but you basically blend your color in here, and then you have to clear the whole hood because there's not a good place to cut the clear off. So if you just blend it, you're going to get a blend line like that. Insurance, they would normally pay to repair it the right way.
Oh yeah.
But you know how people are, they'll fix it and then they'll keep whatever the remaining amount is, which is fine.
And then it doesn't get tagged on Carfax.
Yeah. That's common. It just gets a lot of debris buildup inside.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That's your radiator, that's your AC condenser.
Yeah. Yeah. So the shocks are looking pretty gunked up. Huh?
They're just dirty.
Okay.
I mean, you get grease from the ball joints. You get a ripped ball joint boot up there.
So probably an upper ball joint on that one. And
Usually there's greaseless tie rod ends on these things, and obviously one's been changed because that one's got a grease fitting on it.
okay.
So that pad, I can see the pad's a little low on this side.
Okay.
It's lower than the other side.
How's that ball joint up there? Like, wow, it's a lot of grease on there.
Yeah.
Same thing up there.
People over grease them. That's the problem.
Does that look tore at the top too? Or is that?
That one looks intact yet.
Okay.
This back here appears to be a little bit of the valve cover. A lot of it probably has to do with that intake gasket or the seal in the back, which what happens is it'll run down the back of the motor, it'll run down the back side,
Okay.
and then just basically run down off the end. Yeah, because the valve cover is fairly dry,
Okay.
so a lot of that is coming from the back of the motor. And yeah, the oil pan gaskets do leak on these. The other thing what's happening up here is that's a combination of things. That's a lot of times you'll get oil out of the balancer seal. Your balancer's pretty dry up there, but some of the oil might be coming out of it. Usually a good time to change that is when you do the distributor on the front of the motor.
Okay.
But yeah, you are getting some out of the oil pan, out of the front main seal of the oil pan.
So overall, more or less, just kind of a nuisance issue at the moment. And
Yeah, you just have to keep an eye on your oil level, and your fuel filter's right here. It's usually good to change if nobody's changed it before. Yours still looks original.
Oh, okay.
Or something like that.
So is this all just oil blowing back from driving?
Most of it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this definitely looks like oil.
Yeah.
Not really tranny fluid.
Been doing that for a while, I assume.
Yeah.
Definitely is nice though not to see all rust underneath. That's
Well,
every car I usually have
yeah,
is like that. So
the lines are in good shape here. I mean, a lot of times you'll see some really rusty brake lines.
wow, the drive shaft looks nice too.
Springs, I like to look for damage on them. Sometimes when these cars get towed, depending on who tows them, I mean, they should hook here or somewhere on a steady, solid area. Some guys will hook on the spring and they'll damage it.
Oh, geez.
When you damage the fiberglass spring, there's not much you can do. You got to replace it. But yours looks good.
Oh yeah, I think I read something that that's a whole, what do they call it, unileaf or something, or
Yeah, it's just it's just as opposed to the early ones, which are multiple leaves stacked on each other that are steel. This is fiberglass. It's people call them mono springs.
Yeah,
or something
yeah.
like that.
Okay,
But yours is in good shape.
that's good.
Differential's not leaking. Side seals look good. Case is dry, which is really good. Pinion seals tend to leak. Yours, very marginal. I mean, it's pretty dry.
Okay.
So no worries there.
Oh, this does have a spare tire. Enjoy
Yeah.
that. It's hiding away up there. Good to know. It probably has never been filled with air.
This is actually not in there properly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which you see on almost all of them. This tab here, this should be folded down, and what that tab does is it keeps this sleeve from turning in here. It keeps it so it can only go in one way. If you look, see this T bracket on the top?
Yeah.
That's supposed to, instead of being this direction, it should be this direction. And then it locks in way up on top. There's a slot that it sits in up on top. So you basically hook that in up on top, and then you draw this bottom bolt in. But somebody put muffler eliminators on. That's why it sounds better.
Oh, so it doesn't even have any mufflers at all, huh?
No.
Wow. I would have expected it to be a lot louder.
Just your resonator in the middle.
Okay. Well, I love the sound of it, so it sounds nice.
Yeah, I mean...
it's not too loud, and it's got a nice rumble to
Right.
it, so, all right. Well, good. One less thing I got to do.
That can happen from driving over stuff. Some guys,
yeah.
Sometimes guys will, the pad for a lift will be further over and it'll kind of crunch it.
Oh, yeah, I see you're pretty close as it is, yeah.
That almost looks like it impacted something.
Yeah, maybe
especially going by all the scrape marks on here.
maybe that
Somebody
ditch whenever the
yeah.
front.
So, I mean, all in all, it's really not bad. I mean, believe me, I've seen worse.
No doubt.
Sometimes the wheel bearings go bad on these. They get real sloppy in the back.
Okay.
Those feel pretty good. So, there's really not... Most of the stuff that goes wrong in these is a lot of the minor quirky stuff. We kind of covered a lot of the major stuff underneath.
Yeah.
Usually if there's a problem, you'll see it. Granted, you don't see every problem, but usually in these it's obvious when you got something major going on. So, other than that, it's just general maintenance. If you keep up on them, they run and drive pretty well.
Yeah. Okay. Otherwise, I just keep my rubber mat on the ground underneath and deal with the oil smell until either I decide I want to put money into it or move on to a nicer one.
Right.
If I decide I like it enough.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's the key. I mean, use it for a while and see how you feel about it. People will grab the steering wheel to get out of the car, and that's what happens. Is
give them a demonstration of the tilt is off. Yeah. Now is that just in the tilt like that, or is it the whole?
You've got your upper bowl up here, and then the bowl pivots. There's two pivots, and I'll show you what the pivots look like.
Okay.
And what
I notice when I lower the tilt, it changes, like it's not at the top, it goes to the bottom.
Right.
So I lower it as low as I can, and then then I can hold it at the top more. Right. I guess it is the same, isn't it? It just feels different.
Yeah, I mean the slop is still going to be there no matter what position it's in, but yeah, I mean it's a little bit less.
So I usually find myself pushing forward. Yeah.
Yeah, if you have it up here and you're kind of hanging on it, yeah, you're going to feel it. But there's two ways you can go about this. A lot of times you can buy oversized pins that fit in those pivot holes. That's not always a good fix, because if the housing that the pins press into, if that's wore out more than the size of the oversized pin, it's not going to do you any good.
Okay.
Also, the pins are supposed to press in snugly. A lot of times they don't. So even if you put an oversized pin in, if it doesn't stay in, it's not going to do you any good. The best thing to do is usually change out the housing, because when it's this sloppy, chances are that the housing is pretty bad.
Okay.
So
that's the pin to fix the steering column?
This is an original one. This isn't the oversized. I mean, they're really hard to tell the difference. You have to take a micrometer to them to tell the difference. But yeah, you've got two of these. You got one on the left, one on the right. and this is where that column pivots.
Okay.
So where this presses in is that opening that this presses in wears out. Because these pins are hard, and the pins don't.
That's like an $800 little piece of crap right there.
The pins don't necessarily wear out because they're hardened, but it's
Probably
more,
everything around it.
It's more the housing because the
Yeah.
housing is aluminum. So
Okay.
and these things sometimes they have display issues. Yours looks fine.
Yeah.
Sometimes the climate controls they won't work. You'll get flashing indicators on here, but all your modes seem to be working.
Yeah, the only thing I know is you put tape over, I think, the TPMS
I see that.
sensors, and I'm not even going to worry about it.
Yeah.
I guess that's,
Those
Is it-
sensors, they're hard to get. They're expensive. It's
Yeah.
hardly worth it.
yeah. No. A light on the dashboard isn't going to bother me, I
Right.
guess, when it comes to it. All right, well, looks like we got a pretty good bill of health. A lot of little nuisance issues. I want to thank, and what was your name again? I'm sorry?
Bob.
Thank
Steinbacher.
Bob very much. I appreciate you checking it over for me. Learn something new every day. Couple old ones in there. Is it through here? That in there then, so. Anyways, overall looks pretty good. Fairly clean bill of health on the Corvette so far. A lot of little nuisance issues, oil leaks, and vacuum lines and little things that need to probably get maintained and replaced over time. But other than the little bit of a shaky column here that may actually need to get worked on, probably priority number one here. But other than that, can't complain. Looks like it's going to be a fun car to keep for a little while here, and we'll see how things go. But I'm going to keep this one short, wrap it up, and thanks for watching. Of course, like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. For those of you in the Milwaukee area that have a Corvette and need some experts to help you out with it, contact the Corvette Connection at corvetteconnection.net. And of course, the rest of the information right there.